Did you miss me, guys? I certainly missed you. So my apologies. I kind of got a big, huge promotion at work. I'm now a regional manager, so I've had to do all kinds of things over the last couple months to sacrifice to learn a bunch of new stuff and build a team across the whole Rocky Mountains and everything. So I apologize. I have definitely been gone for a while, but I've got a weekend free finally from travel and a little bit of responsibility. So I have not touched a car for quite some time, and I think hopefully we'll have a good one for you to make up for the months of absence. So let's get to it. We have a 2000 Oldsmobile Intrigue with a, what the owner says is a crankshaft position sensor code problem. They took it to a AutoZone or something and got the code read. They said it has a long crank time, but other than that, it seems to run perfectly fine. So very typical of a cam or crank sensor position sensor code. Vehicle does have a tachometer on it, so I'm going to look for a tach signal giving indication if we're missing a crank sensor signal. I am not sure if it's from cam or crank on this car that we get the tach. All right, long crank time, no movement on the tachometer. Now that, of course, is not always a reliable thing. We've seen that actually several times before. So what I think I'll do, let me just see if the car starts actually, because now I'm a little concerned about getting it out of here if I don't have time to fix it. Okay, it does start eventually. So, and we have a tachometer signal there now, so I don't know if that's because of a handoff or, actually I do know what that's from. And that is, this car, I believe, has two crankshaft position sensors, if I remember correctly, from the diagnosis and understanding of crank and camshaft position sensors on my pay channel. For those of you that are on that, you may want to review it. To be honest with you, I would probably review it myself, but I ain't paying no $4 a month for no channel. So I'll just figure it out myself here. I'm going to opt to use AutoTap, I think, because it works really good on GM vehicles. Maybe it'll give me a little more data than other scan tools. Well, it already pulled up two crankshaft position sensor codes. So let's see, we've got a circuit B and a sensor AB. I'm not quite sure what it's saying here. We'll have to, well, we can't do anything until it loads up. So let me get my AutoTap loaded up and we'll investigate these codes a little bit. All right, now that this is loaded up, we can maybe get a better dissection of this here. I can't expand that screen, but let's see what we've got. Can I scroll over? Yeah, a correlation code. Okay, so, well, you know, all right, and I am not an expert on this by any means, and most do-it-yourselfers, well, most do-it-yourselfers wouldn't have a problem here. Actually, 98% of them wouldn't, because they are going to look at that and say they need a crankshaft position sensor. How easy is that? That may be the case. I don't know. It could be a wiring problem. This correlation code may indicate that there's a timing belt jump or something. But what I believe I'm going to go with as a hypothesis is sensor circuit B. So what I believe this is an electrical issue. Now, it may be a bad crankshaft position sensor, but I believe we've got an electrical issue. And then because of that, we are getting the 1372 because one of the crank sensors, and I assume it's going to be sensor B, is probably not functioning. That is my hypothesis here. I could be wrong on that. The other thing is, it's a circuit B, so it's not detecting a signal. And that is what I'm going to go on right now, that it's probably not detecting a signal. So that's my train of thought here. Those of you guys that are just waiting for me to dig out a wrench, you're going to be really disappointed in this video. That is not how I am going to do this. That's actually never how I do. Now I want to think what I want to do. So let's see if we can get data on the individual circuits A and B. That would be a pretty smart thing to do, wouldn't it? So let me see what we got. All right, let's clear this out. And, oh, you know what I should have done? Actually, here's what I should have done. I should have seen if there's a freeze frame on there and see if maybe, well, freeze frame's not going to have sensor A and B, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if we can get the freeze frame on there. No, of course not. Wow, look at that Bank One fuel trim. I'm not too crazy about that particularly. It's not outrageous, but yeah, so let's see. We've got, well, actually, check that out. 0 RPM with a throttle. So yeah, this is, I believe, indicative that we are going to open loop right here. This is going to be an electrical problem. There is no question in my mind based on that. So those of you guys on the pay channel, maybe we'll do an inside the box episode on this and tell you why I'm thinking that. But the problem is I've got to kind of move with celerity here because I have a trip to Pittsburgh tomorrow morning, and I have to get this car out of here today. And of course, if I'm going to Pittsburgh, guess who I am arranged to have a visit with? Anyway, let's, this is not going to, well, it is helpful actually, but we need to get data on circuits A and B. So let's see what we've got available. All right, I've got engine RPM there, and I'm a little concerned here. Actually, I'm very concerned because there is no other cam or crank sensor related data at all available. I am amazed at that. So if it's not available on this scan tool, it is almost guaranteed not available. There is nothing. It is almost guaranteed not available on my other one, Auto Ingenuity. Wow. So all I can do is RPM here, and that's not actually going to help all that much. So let's go with what we've got here on our RPM and try cranking it, see if we get an RPM signal. I guarantee you we will not, but it is not going to help me to determine why. And that, I believe, I'm going to need my scope for, and we'll have to do some Hall effect testing, and I do not know where the sensor is on this thing either, so this may kind of suck. So let's get this in focus here. All right, let's see. Yeah, no RPM signal during the crank. This is definitely going to be a circuit problem. I am quite confident. So, all right, that's actually good news because that's less indicative of like a timing problem or something that would be hugely labor intensive. So let's get out of here. And what I'm going to do is just try off camera Auto Ingenuity and just see if I have any more data available. And if I do, then we'll come back. And if not, we'll go to the crank sensor. All right, well, this was worth doing. It turns out we do have 24x crank sensor there. I'm not sure why that didn't show on auto tap. That's kind of weird. We also have a cam position sensor. That's good. I'd like to see if we have crank A and B, and it does not look like we will. That is unfortunate, but let me load up here what I can find that's useful. All right, I've got engine speed, crank, and cam sensor. Unfortunately, there are no available PIDs to divvy up between a sensor A and B, which I am very positive that this car has. So we'll just go with this, and what I imagine we'll see is no engine speed on the crank, no crank sensor signal, but I do bet that we see cam signal. So let's see what happens. Yep. All right, so you guys can see what happened there. We didn't have engine speed or crank sensor, but the cam sensor was working. So obviously either a handoff to the cam sensor or to the crank sensor A, I would imagine. Let me get this car up in the air. Some of the simpletons out there, of course, are like, well, why don't you just do a visual on the crank sensor just because of the code? And the reason is because I don't want to get under the car and look and everything if it's something that I can diagnose here and find out that it's not something with the crank sensor. That is the reason why. I like to know what to look for when I do a visual inspection. Now I have qualification to do a visual inspection. All right, I've got the car lifted up now, and incidentally, the crank sensor is not at where I would hope it would be, of course, by the crankshaft pulley. So unfortunately, while I'm certainly not familiar with this car, I've never seen this engine before, I am still kind of, I consider myself a GM guy, so I know enough to know that this is almost guaranteed to be like my Trans Am, where the crank sensor is going to be off the flywheel, but unfortunately that means usually behind the starter. I am not about to remove a starter on this car to do this testing, so that means I'll have to test at the computer, which means I'll now need to get wiring diagrams, so this is going to suck. I will be able to reproduce that long crank time, and we'll see that we'll have no engine speed due to a crank sensor failure, but we will see the cam sensor working. All right. I think that was pretty sufficient there. So clearly, this is a great diagnostic. We know that this isn't going to be a referenced code or something. We will definitely be going after this crank sensor. So some really good information to help narrow down our search. We now know that what we are going to be dealing with almost guaranteed is one of three things. Either a bad crankshaft position sensor, bad wiring, which we've seen twice, by the way, mind you, on the other channel, and the third possibility could, of course, be a PCM problem. So let's get a strategy together here. All right, this is the starter here, and this car is leaking. It looks like a little bit of coolant too, but it's also leaking oil really bad. You can smell it burn when the car came in. And it's kind of weird, I guess, being a scientist crawling under a greasy car, but now I'm an executive at a $20 billion corporation crawling around under a greasy car, so I think I may need to find a better way of doing this because this just doesn't seem to fit right. Plus, I am pretty confident that I think I see crankshaft position sensor behind the starter, but I can't do it from this camera angle. I am not about to remove a starter. I just don't really feel like doing that right now. So let's go to a much cleaner and more intellectual strategy than this. All right, this strategy is to do this as quick as possible, and yeah, most definitely, there's no question about it. That crankshaft position sensor is not near the crankshaft on this model, so it is going to be behind the starter. And let's see if I can see it from here. Nope, you cannot because the starter is underneath the exhaust manifold, so that sucks. All right, well, this is a no-brainer, obviously, because I know that this is definitely going to be a Hall effect sensor. I have no question in my mind about that. So that gives us only two possible options. We either have to remove the starter and then we'd have to reinstall it again, obviously, or we can test at the computer. So needless to say, we're going to test at the computer on this model. The only thing that's kind of concerning me is the computer is not in the engine bay. It is probably going to be behind the dashboard, which means I've got to take the dashboard apart. Oh my God. Because one of the problems is also I'm a little worried about time right now. And actually, so it's not behind the dashboard on this car because there's no harness going through there. So maybe it is on the driver's side. And actually, it is almost guaranteed not going to be on the driver's side either. What am I missing? I do not know where the PCM is on this car. Let me just take a quick look inside, but it can't be in the passenger cabin. There's no way. Well, I don't think it's there, but I don't feel like taking everything apart, but it can't be there. So let's see, where's the main harness at? Oh, wait a minute. Is it in the wheel well, maybe? Oh, no. Well, that does kind of appear to be the case here, doesn't it? Oh, man. Wow, it goes like right to the airbox, but I don't see underneath it. What in the hell is this? Like, it doesn't go under the airbox. It's like in the airbox. Wow. All right. Well, and I got this support brace here. That seems to be it. But I think I may go ahead and this time I may use Google or something. But it has to be there. There's really no other explanation. It's definitely there. I'm just going to go ahead and take a look because I might as well save the time Google searching because there's no other question. It has to be like under the airbox. All right, well, for anybody who's new to the channel and wondering what the hell kind of car repair is this, well, I got something for you. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I can watch that all day. That is some high quality, educational, intellectual, high level car repair right there. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't get a really good camera angle of that, did I? Wait guys, don't leave, please don't leave. There we go. And wait here, I just want to, there we go. Yeah. What kind of ratchet are you using? This is a Craftsman ratchet. What size socket is that? Well, let's see here. This is a 13 millimeter socket. Using a hex or a 12 point? Actually, I didn't really notice. Yeah, it's a hex. All right, guys, that's right. I have less than 2% of the viewership of most other YouTube automotive channels because I don't show stuff like that. Yep, computer right there under the airbox. How odd is that? Well, at least to me it's odd. You know, I don't do this all the time. So let's get that computer out of there. Well, actually, first I need to get a wiring diagram, don't I? So let's get wiring diagram. I'll get that computer out of there. Let's see if we can hurry up and get a diagnosis because unfortunately I may not be able to finish this car today. All right, I need to get this diagnosis going here. So what I've done is got my computer out here. I've got some wiring diagrams here. And of course, we cover this ad nauseum on the pay channel. So you guys either watch the pay channel and you've seen this a number of times before, or you're not on the pay channel because, of course, you already know it. There's no value there then, so there's no reason to go over the wiring diagrams. So what I will do, now I want to think how I want to do this here scientifically. We know we've got a problem with sensor B, but we don't know if it's going to be and incidentally, we know that it's Hall effect because it's going to be a 6-wire sensor. And remember, there's 2 of the sensors built into one. So I thought it was 2 separate sensors, but it's actually 2 sensors built into one. So obviously, 6-wire sensor, Hall effect. We are looking at either signal, ground, or power for sensor B on that thing. And what I'm thinking is, do I want to do a positive control because there's every reason to believe sensor A is working and we can get waveforms from that. So I think maybe we'll just go jump right for sensor. Yeah, let's do sensor A. We really need positive control. Also make sure that we're connected right. My wiring diagram's accurate. That's actually a good point. So let's do that. We're going to get some data from sensor A, which we believe should work. All right, we're just going to try to test this old school here. I could bring out the scope, of course, but you know, usually for you guys, I try not to do that. But we'll probably, you know, as we know from the other video on the diagnosis and understanding of a Hall effect sensor, we should be okay with a voltmeter here. I've gone ahead and pinned my connectors based on my wiring diagram there. And green will, of course, be the power, so we're going to go there. Now, I actually have no idea if this is a 12 volt or a 5 volt. I actually have no idea. So let's see, I guess I could, let's see, black is the ground here, so let's do that. I'm sure, hopefully this will work. Yeah, so that is, well, actually was black the power. Maybe I mixed them up, whatever, but obviously there's power there. So we're good to go. All right, and then I can test, oh, that's what it was. My leads were mixed up, of course. So so good. We've got sensor power, sensor ground. So now we can see if we've got signal here, and there's connection with signal. So this, of course, doesn't necessarily mean that we've got integrity all the way to the sensor. It could be a short to ground, obviously, on the frame, or a ground fault, more likely, would be the definition of that on the frame. I'm still not much of an electrician, but obviously we're looking pretty good there. I just want to get a couple of things here just to verify. Actually, one way to verify this would be to run the engine. That goes without saying. So why don't we do that? Let's run the engine and make sure that we get evidence of control with the signal from the sensor. So what we want to do is go, all right, that's all I need to see. So now what we want to do is let's see what we read over on sensor B, because that is the one that the error code is referring to. All right, and just real quick, just testing the power and the ground again real quick, but obviously we already confirmed that. So let's go pin out sensor B right now. All right, and real quick, a lot of you guys request to see the lab scope. I'm going to just show this real quick. We can do more of this maybe on the other channel, but let's see what our settings are. Oh, that should, oh, we're on a microsecond scale. Duh. All right, let's see here. I'll bet about a 500 milliseconds should work. There we go. There's our square wave. So I believe this is if I remember correctly from the video before, we talked a lot about the GM signals, and I'm sure this is a 24X. So, and of course power is inferred here, obviously, even though we're just looking at the one channel. So obviously this sensor works great. You know what, maybe we will just keep this up here anyway for the test on the bad sensor. So let me turn this car off and we will pin out the bad sensor now, and then we will see if we can figure out what is missing from that sensor. Let's get to the scope, see if our settings are still the same. And it looks like they are. So now I need to remember what we're doing. So we want sensor B. So let's see, first of all, if we've got power. So I've got a power over here on the red that I've made. And then let's see, a ground is going to be, which one did I do for the ground? The dark blue. So I had to kind of move this over here so I don't accidentally confuse them. So let's just try that. And, uh-oh. Missing either a power or a ground, I'm going to say. Not good, not good. Which one was the signal? No, actually the dark blue was the signal. So it looks like we may be missing signal. Oh man, I got too many things going on here. So let me see. Red definitely is going to be the power for B. It is yellow that I made the ground. That is it right here. And it does look like we may not have power. It does look like that indeed. Or no signal and ground. So let's try a known good ground. Actually, we know a good ground is the black one here is a good ground, right? I'm going to say we do not have power. That is kind of an interesting problem. Let me make sure my pin is correct. Well, all right, my pin is most definitely correct. There is no doubt about it. This pin is correct. And it is making contact. See if we're just not making contact. No, it is definitely making contact. So we have a big problem here. Obviously, we don't need to be a brain to figure out this issue. This is not good at all. We have no power at the PCM. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right, so what I want to do is just verify my connections, because this is a very serious call I'm about to make. All right, I just want to verify one more time here, but we're about ready to make the first call ever on this channel on a PCM. So let me just let me see what I want to do here. Let's go back to that power right here. So this is power from B. That's sensor B power. And there's, I'm going to go find a ground somewhere on this engine. There's nothing. This is not cool. So here's what I want to do. I wonder if we've got, let's see, I wonder if we've got ground and signal actually. So what I can do, maybe I can do this. Let's go to the ground, no, the power on, sorry, this is a lot of wires going on here. What I want to do is go to the power on A. So if I remember, the power on A is this green guy, right? And then we know a ground on A is going to be the black terminal. So, okay, good, excellent. And wow, looks like, what happened to our scale there? Oops, wrong way. All right, so now let's try that ground. And you know what, let's just change the scale here. There we go. Okay, there's our ground. So now what I want to do is do the ground on B. And that, I remember, is a yellow here. So we're going to go to the ground on B. We have ground. We do have ground. All right, well that confirms a no power. Absolutely, without question. So that is not cool. Actually, you know what we could also do? Let me just try something else here. We won't have, let's see, so that's our signal wire. Of course, we're not going to have any signal because we don't have any power. Yellow was the ground, so yeah, it does almost look like there's a continuity there though, right? So, all right, and I wonder if we can get a square wave here actually by doing a signal here, and we can. So there's no question about it. Simple diagnosis here, and actually going to the component in this case would have been a massive waste of time, actually, because, well, I take that back, strike that. It may not have been. The component may be the fault here. The component may be the fault here that's caused a direct ground out. That may, well, now let me think about that, because there would have to be some resistance. That is unlikely to happen because that's what the sensor does. I'd have to think about that a little bit, but it is very obvious that there is no power from the PCM for crankshaft position sensor B. That is going to be my call. I'm just going to verify this one more time off camera, and then we'll wrap this up and see what we're going to do. All right, sorry for belaboring this, but I really just want to make this call here. We're trying to think if there's anything I overlooked, but there's just no question about it. The wiring diagram is accurate. I'm absolutely on the correct pin. There is no doubt. I am going to just do a DVOM test here. I'm just going to go to ground and nothing. We know this is good ground. We actually validated that. Nothing. Key is on. There is no power from here. Now the problem is that obviously worried about the computer here, but we also can't just replace a computer. We have to find the root cause of this. So I'm going to have to find where our wiring may have, most likely what happened, I suppose, is maybe the wiring for this somehow has grounded out on the frame. Maybe it is still grounding out on the frame. So what I am going to have to do, because unfortunately I don't have a lot of time here, one of the tests that I want to do is see, is that wire still grounding out on the frame? Then I'd be inclined to retest, see if fixing that condition somehow helps out with this. I doubt it will. Most likely this car is going to need a computer, but I want to verify that there's no other wiring problems or shorts to ground or anything like that first. So we will have to do that, unfortunately, on another video. And I'm not sure when that will be because I'm actually likely to be gone for like 3 weeks. Well, you see what happens when I leave the channel for just a few weeks. All hell breaks loose, and we very well may be replacing our first PCM ever on this channel, a channel designed to prevent you from doing that, but we don't prevent you from doing what is necessary. Now, that said, remember, it is not diagnosed that this PCM is bad. We still have a variable where we may be experiencing a short to ground condition here. I have not ruled that out. So we can't replace the PCM, and we couldn't do that anyway until we would repair whatever that short to ground is first. So we kind of have to find where the problem is, working backwards to this PCM. I am unfortunately running out of time, so what I am going to do is I'm going to just kind of wiggle around a bunch of wires as far as I can reach, see if there's any chance I maybe free something up and get this 12 volts to show back up at the PCM. And if that's the case, we'll maybe do another part on this video where I find where that issue is or whatever. And then, of course, on the Schrodinger's Box Quantum Mechanics channel, we'll talk more in depth about how I did this exact procedure here. But if I don't find anything else, I guess we'll see you next time. I'm going to be on the road for the next 3 weeks. But if I do find something, just hang on.